Now, a reminder of the latest migration statistics which have come out today. In 2024, there were 132.3 million arrivals to the UK. Don't panic about that.
That's everybody coming in and out of our airports and off boats to get here. So that could be day visitors, people who are here on holiday, and then most of them leave. There were 43,630 detected illegal arrivals. Of course, the wording in the government document says they're now calling them irregular arrivals in 2024.
But we're not falling for it. 2.2 million visitor visas granted.
108,000 people claimed asylum in 2024. So that is double the amount of 2021, and it's significantly higher than 2019. We're going to talk to Mark in a minute. All of these numbers went through the roof after the pandemic. In fact, Mark is here with us now, our Home Security Editor. Mark, what are your major takeouts from these numbers this morning?
Well, I think as we spoke about sort of work and student visas, the last live we did, let's flip that around and talk about irregular arrivals, illegal arrivals, as we call it on this channel. 44,000 just short of irregular, illegal arrivals detected in 2024. Now, that's 19% more than the previous year. 37,000, the vast majority of those, arrived on small boats, 84% of the total. That's up 25% on the previous year. Now, the biggest nationality on the boats represented, Afghans. 5,900 of them on the small boats, accounting for 17%
So they've come a long
of small
way
boat
to get to
arrivals.
Britain, haven't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
And they will automatically get asylum because they're Afghanis or not?
If they don't get asylum, they'll get leave to remain, because so many of those coming on boats come from countries that are deemed to not be safe countries, or we don't have any kind of relationship with. So Iran, Syria, Iraq potentially as well, where people are not going to be returned to those countries. Now, what happens, of course, when these people arrive here? They have to be accommodated. So this will, I'm sure, get the hackles raised on amongst our audience. Some 38,000 asylum seekers were being housed in UK hotels at the end of December. Now, that was up 2,428 from the 35,650 odd at the end of September, and actually the second quarterly rise in a row. Now, this matters because we had Labour coming into power telling us they were going to end the use of asylum seeker hotels. Not only have they not ended it, they have increased the number of hotels now being requisitioned for use by asylum seekers. And of course, those people arriving on the small boats being accommodated in the hotels go on, as we say, to claim asylum. Record level of asylum applications last year, 108,000. Now, that is bigger than the previous record of 103,000, which was way, way back in 2002.
Gosh.
In December, 125,000 asylum applicants were still awaiting an initial decision on their claim. In terms of a breakdown of those nationalities who are claiming asylum, again, I'm sure this will raise a few eyebrows. Pakistanis are the most common nationality among asylum applicants last year.
What war are Pakistani?
Well, I think a very valid point, Andrew. That accounted for 10,542 people who were Pakistani, or 9.7% of the total number claiming asylum. The figure is almost double the previous year. So a very significant increase that will have to be addressed by the Home Office, there is no doubt, going forward, because, as you say, they are not fleeing a war zone.
Using the internet without a VPN, a virtual private network, is a bit like taking to the road without car insurance. All it takes is one unlucky moment to cost you a lot of cash. This video's sponsor is Private Internet Access. They are the VPN to help keep you safe. Click the link in the description below to find out why over 30 million people have downloaded PIA to protect themselves online. A virtual private network is an app that hides your IP address and helps keep your data private. When you're browsing the internet at home, you give up a large amount of data to businesses, to shops, and indeed to social media giants too. Hackers have the ability to steal your personal data with ease, including sensitive information such as passwords, keystrokes, and even your personal photos. Private internet access helps protect your personal data by encrypting your internet connection to keep your data out of the hands of cybercriminals. And it's not just hackers either to be concerned about. Information can be censored too. When Canada passed their C18 bill, social media giants decided to ban news content on their platforms. But PIA can protect your ability to consume the news and content you love. Private internet access is available for Windows users, Mac OS, Android, Linux, iOS, and you can use one PIA subscription to protect an unlimited amount of devices. And we've got a huge GB News discount for you too. Click the link in this video's description and you'll get a massive 83% off PIA. That's under £2 a month, the price of a coffee, and you'll get an extra 4 months completely free on top. Also, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee too. Visit piavpn.com/GB News to start protecting yourself digitally today.
On what basis would they be trying to claim asylum?
Potentially as, well, they may well be economic migrants, but they may be saying that, they are political dissidents. I'm not sure, to be honest. Afghans were the second most common nationality among those claiming asylum, 8,500 people, or 7.9% of the total. And then another one, these eyebrows are going to be raised all over the place. The number of Vietnamese nationals claiming asylum has pretty much doubled. Just under 5,500, or 4.9% of the total asylum applications. Again, what war are they fleeing in Vietnam? A place that many thousands of British tourists will go to on a regular basis. Yeah. That's not to say there's not poverty in that country. Yeah. Of course there is. But that puts them in the bracket of economic migrants, not fleeing a war zone. And then basically, almost half of those claiming asylum, 47%, will receive an initial decision that grants them leave to remain in the UK. So we've been hearing a short time ago from Angela Eagle, the Home Office Minister, reacting to today's figures. Let's have a listen to what she says.
Inherited a huge backlog of asylum claims. We've now increased asylum claims in the last 3 months of the year that these statistics are about by 52%. So we're beginning to get some order to the system, but it will take time to make certain that we can get a grip and start making the system work again.
So there, what is she saying? Effectively, not our fault, Gov, we inherited this from the last lot.
Same old, same old.
In terms of those being detained in immigration detention, that's risen as well. 20,600 people entered immigration detention last year, an increase of 12% compared to the year before. And this uptick actually follows a long-term downward trend since 2015. Albanians are the most common nationality being held in immigration detention. But again, that number is falling, and the numbers that are rising in immigration detention are Romanians and Brazilian nationals now being detained. And then we can get on to visa now, if we've got time, in terms of work visas.
Well, I'd really love to, but I think we've got to go to Charlie Peters. Just stay with us, Mark. We've got a lot more to dig into here. Let's go to Charlie, who's in Wethersfield in Essex, to tell us the effect of illegal migration down there and so many people seeking asylum. Charlie?
Well, good morning. Yes, well, people have been living here for thousands of years, but it's the most recent arrivals, several hundred asylum seekers being housed at a former RAF airbase, now also formerly a Ministry of Defence police headquarters. That's caused the most concern to this area. It's really changed the whole nature and the atmosphere of this area. And we've heard a lot of concern from locals this morning about how it's changed their behaviours. One man I spoke to earlier said he was a bricklayer, but now he's started a new business because he wants to stay at home in the day because he's nervous about the safety of his teenage daughters. We've heard reports of men loitering around in the streets around the camp. It was set to house a few hundred. It's got, at the moment, we believe 550. But it's set to have over 800 people staying there now as the camp expands to house more asylum seekers, as the government continues to struggle to grapple with that backlog. And as you've just heard from Mark White, the numbers that are still coming, the numbers they're still trying to deal with. So Wethersfield's got a population of 707. So they're anticipating that the number of asylum seekers will very quickly outnumber those who live in the village, those who have not arrived recently, perhaps on a small boat. And that's drawn a lot of concern and a lot of criticism of politicians in particular. Now, earlier today, we spoke to Andrew Hull, who told us that Sir Keir Starmer actually wrote against the special development order for the camp in 2023, but has since supported legislation to expand that camp, which is the current approach of the Labour government. And Andrew told us that he was getting pretty sick and tired of politicians and how they're dealing with the asylum issue.
Our community can say we have little faith in the politicians. This has been a process began for 3 years. We've been battling overdevelopment or inadequate or unsuitable development for a long time. So, do we have faith in politicians? Does anyone anymore? Really? This is the problem. One of the main problems we have is going back to contamination. The special development order, part of the requirements for numbers were to expand to 800 was that they were meant to publish contamination survey results to ensure that site is safe. It was meant to be published, and now the Home Office are refusing to publish it.
Some of these people.
You heard Andrew mention contamination there very briefly. That's because he's actually conducted his own research using a leading national expert on environmentalism, a great consultancy that local residents have come together to pay for, because he said that the Home Office and other government agencies just weren't doing their jobs to ensure that the site was safe. They say that they found very compelling evidence that the site should not be lived on, especially not by over 800 people as it is set to house in the coming months. So a lot of concern here. I have to say, though, just before we came live, I spoke to a woman on the street here in Finchingfield, right next to Wethersfield, so the bigger village in the area. She told me that she had no concern whatsoever and that she knew many people who were going into the camp to support them. But equally, I also heard a resident who said that most of the people they see going in are the police, with sirens blaring in the evening, going in to deal with what they think are outbreaks of violence as they deal with and live together so many hundreds of people, many of whom crossing on small boats.
OK, thank you very much, Charlie. Charlie there in Wethersfield in Essex. Mark White is still with us. Few more last points, Mark.
Yeah, just on visas. So non-visitor visas, so those issued for work, for study, for family, humanitarian reasons. 956,000 visas for non-visit reasons issued last year. 210,000 were work visas, 37% down on the previous year, but 53% up on pre-pandemic levels. 27,000 of those were for health and care work visas. Again, that is 81% fewer, mainly because of the way in which the threshold for those qualifying for those health and care visas, the salary threshold's been increased. In terms of student visas, 393,000 study visas were granted last year, 14% fewer, mainly probably because dependents are no longer allowed to come to accompany students. So visa dependents fell by 85% to 22,000 last year.